congratulations on your new film, Bad Things on Shudder.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
So this is a terrific film. Could you tell us about how you landed into this project for yourself?
Bad Things is a story about the power of motherhood, and I am directing three films that are about, or trilogy about motherhood, the power of motherhood. So my first film, Lyle, was about wanting to be a mother and being scared of that. And this one is about how Ruthie Nodd, played by Gayle Rankin, can't move forward with her relationships because she is still dealing with this relationship with her mother. And I'm making a third one called Daughter, which looks at it in a totally different way too, which is the what it's like to try and be the perfect mother and for that to go wrong.
Now tell us about this horror genre that you entered. Is there always been a love for horror for yourself?
Yeah, I've always loved horror. Ever since I was a little kid, I liked stories that were more like darker and more serious. I liked melodramas. I felt really uncomfortable with cartoons. They made me very nervous. And I didn't really like sitcoms and like the perfect nuclear white family all having these tiny problems that they would figure out together. And they made me really uncomfortable. And um, I remember the first time I saw Twilight Zone and I just stood and watched the whole thing. I didn't move. And I was like, so grown-ups made this? And I think I found it comforting because it was sort of more of a reflection of maybe my own anxieties. So it gave me a place to connect in something instead of something that made me feel alienated and like it wanted me to conform.
So in the film like Bad Things like this, do you when you're directing, do you direct it more like a horror or sort of like a psychological thriller? Because it seems like you have to balance both of it into a film like this.
Yeah, that's a really good question. I direct my stories very emotionally. I remember on the set of Bad Things once I was walking next to, I think it was definitely Gayle Rankin who plays Ruthie Nodd, and I was like, you know how they always say actors are in character? Well, I think directors are in character too, because you kind of feel you're trying to feel it. Horror is very sensual. In fact, the whole crew, there's a scene where Rad Pereira, who plays Maddie, they're walking down the hall and they're listening, their whole body seems to be listening. And in fact, we all did that with them. And so it's that it's directing for the psychology, but the psychology is so intense that it partners really well with the supernatural. So there is like directing it and plotting it with my team, with my artists that I worked with. We were always finding the balance with what's the real world and what's the supernatural world. And a lot of times, the way we shot the real world was more of the surreal looking stuff. And the spooky world, the supernatural world, was shot more like bright light and a stock image of like what a family friendly poster in a cafeteria might look like of everybody eating their Cheerios. And that's kind of what terrified me. So there's a real arrangement to shooting for horror, shooting for the psychology, and giving cohesion to it.
I mean, this film has a lot of character development, and your cast is terrific. How did you draw these raw emotions, where they go through these emotions and violent, not violent, but sort of like a whimsical personalities going from one extreme to another, like instantly.
I'm very attracted to external expression and in film and like that flamboyant kind of operatic, also another reason why I like horror. So there's a lot of physicality. I think of it as very like ballet-like, dance-like, the camera and the actors all moving together. I had like my heart was breaking for all of them, and they're really all going through something, and the stakes are big. The transgressions that are being done to them and their desires and their heartbreak is all intertwined in also trying to figure out what's going on. So I feel like just allowing these big talents that we had to let go and fully express themselves was something that actors want to do,
Hmm.
and can do if they're allowed to. And a part of the story is about women and non-binary people allowed to express rage and explore all their different emotions instead of being subtle or polite or good or subdued. And so part of that needed to be kind of throwing yourself against the wall.
Well, then tell us how you compiled this cast for yourself. What were the requirements that you were looking for to make it a perfect cohesion for your story?
It's interesting because I knew that I wanted qualities from the characters, and I knew that they needed to be wonderful actors to be able to pull off. How do you make the breakfast room is haunted feel real? So you need exquisite acting. You need real artists to be able to pull that off. And we started with Ruthie and built it from there. And so for me, what they looked like, what age they were, that was really not one of the things I was thinking about. Instead of, do they make me feel? Can they embody this quality, these feelings? Would you root for this person who is also so troubled and doing these terrible things? And are they also funny? And also, will they break my heart too? So you needed a Ruthie Nodd who could do so many things at once. And of course, it just had to be Gayle Rankin, who, I mean, she's just ready to explode. I feel like she has so much to give, and like so much complexity and interesting choices that she makes, and there's so much in her head that it's all of them have so much in their head, every single one of these actors, that it's not easy to understand what's going on. It's hard to direct sometimes because their brains are so active and they're thinking of not necessarily, what you might think of in the scene. They're holding that, but with 10 other things at the same time. So it's like, get out of their way, let the magic happen, invite chaos in, and trust.
I mean, and plus you also managed to pull in a Molly Ringwald into this film. Could you tell us about how rewarding that is to work with her? I mean, I loved her when I was younger, of course.
I mean, she's a heartthrob, she's a power, she's a force. And I needed this intoxicating presence, that would just glue this movie together. And she was just a dream to get, having her iconic talent as well as what she means to us all in this small queer indie. It's such a beautiful partnership. It's odd. So many things about this movie are kind of like odd. Like, we get this icon in a tiny movie, and like, we needed it. We needed that presence to feel almost spiritually large. And also, she's just smoking. She's hot and fierce, and I guess that's how I see her. So it was an obvious choice that she would be the sexy god mom, who's possessed everybody. But the way, I almost feel like, people write off our older actors if you get past 30 or whatever into different roles. They don't see them anywhere that way that I see them, which is why we need so many different voices telling stories.
Well, she looks great in red, and I do have to admit that.
Yeah.
One major thing is the production setting of your film is in an I want to say a hotel. Could you manage to explain to us on how you acquired a set, that seemingly abandoned, and I'm just curious, was it abandoned or was there actual guests there and you just managed to work around it?
That would have been crazy. Oh, I see a kitty tail. Well, no, this is where COVID did work in my favor the one time, which is a lot of, businesses were shut down, including hotels. And so I was knocking on hotels for years. And when I found this one, I taped a little note outside. It didn't look like much from the outside, just kind of like this white box. I was like, is that a hotel? So I pulled the car up, ran, wrote a note. Oh, will you call me? I want to make a horror film. And I get a call a month later, and then I walk inside. Oh, look at this guy. And it was just like, oh, yes, this is the place. It had this feminine, modern energy, like 90s. It didn't feel like an antique, dusty, cobwebby, creepy, creaky hotel, which I didn't want at all. And I was just really turned on by it, and I knew it was the place.
I know it was that creepy vibe that kind of reminded me of The Shining in its own way. I wasn't sure if that was intentional or you saw any similarities to that.
Well, I never write understanding that these films that I love so much are seeping through. Oh, wait, I don't want to talk about writing. Whoops. I'm trying to avoid that to honor the strike. So as a director, I'm understanding that the Shining and some films are influencing me, but I'm not necessarily aware of it as I go. I mean, definitely by the time I'm shooting that film, I understand the parallels. Oh, people are going to think this is The Shining. And I just embrace that because I love it. It's in my body, it's in my bloodstream. And I'm also very aware that I'm kind of repurposing it and looking at it through my queer eyes and my female eyes. And I think I have a lot to say and a lot to change about how the world has looked at women and how the world has been dominated by a very male gaze and a very male presence and a very male white straight personality. And you feel it, and it starts to squeeze us all to the point where we feel like we don't exist, which makes me want to rage out and make bad things.
Way understandable. Stewart, one last thing that I want to address, because I know LGBTQ horror as a subgenre has been, being in the forefront as of late. There's more and more movies in this subgenre. What do you think of this subgenre, or do you just consider it as horror in general?
Yeah, I don't distinguish between it. I've never thought about it. I don't write thinking, oh, I'm going to make a queer story. Whoops, I'm talking about writing again. Sorry. I don't make films thinking I'm going to make a queer story. I just write oh my God, it's hard to. Okay, I'm going to start again. I don't think of LGBTQ being different than any other genre. I think of it as a subgenre. I think it's just reflective of the world. And when I am directing and making films, I'm not, oh, I'm making a queer film. I'm just trying to be authentic to myself.
Well said. Well, thank you very much, Stewart, for this conversation about bad things. Can't wait to check out your next directing film, third and final film, whatever that may be, and
hopefully not final.
of this trilogy. Well,
Yes,
we'll call it a trilogy for now, but hopefully we'll get to into this discussion again,
I
and
would love it.
and go into more in depth after the strikes, of course.
after the strikes. I would love it. And thank you. Thank you for your work and for the interview. Thank you.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Bye.
Bye-bye.